This is why the USAF really retired the SR-71 Blackbird. The Lockheed SR-71 was the world's most capable spy aircraft. But rising costs, new spy satellites and Pentagon politics were what ended its career. Lockheed's SR-71 Blackbird is perhaps the greatest military spy plane ever built. First flying in the 1960s, the Blackbird was capable of speeds over Mach 3 and it served with the United States Air Force up until the late 1990s. Thanks to its speed and low radar profile, not once did a Soviet missile or aircraft get a lock on the SR-71. Only the Swedish and their Viggens managed to do so. But if the SR-71 was such an effective spy aircraft, why was it retired? Well, an advancement in satellite technology, the cost of flying the aircraft and more all resulted in the aircraft's retirement. There were those in the US Air Force that would have loved to see it keep flying. But ultimately, the SR-71 made its last flight with NASA in 1999. The SR-71 could outfly any Soviet interceptor. The SR-71 truly was an untouchable aircraft. The top speed of the aircraft was Mach 3.3, or 2,200 miles per hour. It could do this at a service ceiling of 85,000 feet. The SR-71 flew so high its pilots were effectively wearing spacesuits, not normal flying gear. And the speed meant that Soviet interceptors simply couldn't catch the aircraft. Aircraft like the MiG-25 Foxbat and MiG-31 Foxhound certainly had Mach 3 capable speeds. But not over as long a period as the Blackbird. By the time they were on course to intercept, the SR-71 would be out of Soviet airspace. Only Sweden's Viggen was able to get a confirmed lock on an SR-71 after one flew through Swedish airspace. A head-on attack was what allowed the Viggen fighter to achieve this, although in a flat-out sprint the Viggen would not have stood a chance. However, with the Swedish developing tactics to make these intercepts successful, there was a possibility that the Soviets could do the same with their MiGs. But this wasn't a primary reason for the Air Force retiring the Blackbirds in the 1990s. There were more basic reasons than that. Spy satellites started eating into the SR-71's role. Number one was perhaps the fact that the SR-71 was incredibly expensive to operate. The Blackbird cost a staggering $85,000 to operate per hour, and around $300 million to support the aircraft per year. Another reason was the fact that spy satellites could now do the same job as the SR-71. But they could also photograph a larger swathe of Soviet territory, and quicker and in the end cheaper than what it cost to operate the SR-71 fleet. These satellites simply started to eat into the work of the SR-71. The SR-71 also lacked a data link, unlike the U-2 that had come before it. This meant that most of the imagery and radar data from the SR-71 was not available in real time, and the aircraft would have to return to base for its information to get downloaded. But the SR-71 still had its uses, and discussions to retire the aircraft in 1988 met much resistance. The aircraft would keep flying through 1989 and midway into 1990 before the SR-71 was finally retired. Pentagon politics had also likely played a role in its demise, as despite the cost to operate, there was clearly still a use for the Blackbird, highlighted by the fact 3 were then reactivated. 3 SR-71s were reactivated for further use. There was unease over political situations in both the Middle East and North Korea. So U.S. Congress re-examined reactivating the SR-71 in 1993. Despite meeting some resistance, 3 SR-71s would fly again and enter service with the Air Force in 1995. Congress had also been very disappointed that there was no suitable replacement for the Blackbird. There was certainly nothing that could fly as fast as the SR-71. The reactivated aircraft even had the data link they needed in the first place finally added to them. These 3 Blackbirds would fly on with the U.S. Air Force until 1998. This before the Air Force finally retired them for good. NASA, though, would operate 2 of them until 1999. The very last flight of the SR-71 took place on October 9, 1999, bringing the career of the world's most incredible spy aircraft to an end. The SR-71 has enjoyed a happy retirement. Thankfully for aviation enthusiasts, there are plenty of SR-71 survivors on display across the United States, as well as one in the United Kingdom. Since its retirement, no other spy aircraft has come close to the Blackbird's speed, nor its unique appeal and sensational design. The SR-71 probably had a few years left in it even after the reactivated trio were finally retired from service. But they served the United States well, and provided valuable information on the Soviet Union at the height of the Cold War.